Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, record corn and soybean crops are predicted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
In southern gardening, elephant ears. They love partial shade and they can stand wet areas.
In the food factor, microwave. See what you can put in them and what you can't.
In the markets, a couple of factors are putting pressure on cattle prices, a trend that may continue. While analysts say soybean traders are acting like they expect the U.S. crop to keep getting bigger. John Michael Riley has analysis.
In the feature segment, electronic commodity markets. Noisy trading pit is the classic image of the markets, but today the mouse click is more realistic.
I can remember after the close and the grains, and any given day you could go downstairs to the bar or up to your office and sit around and talking about corn, soybeans, and wheat for a couple hours, just soaking up knowledge and comparing notes. You can't really do that anymore. I think that that's been the big loss.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
Corn fared better while soybeans dropped in the wake of the first crop report of the fall season.
Leighton, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says it looks for soybean stocks to triple in the 2014-2015 marketing year to come. I'll have the numbers now, and later we'll have the markets. Leighton will have the market's reactions to those numbers. As we look at soybeans in the United States, both record crop and yield, over 3.8 billion bushels here in Mississippi, almost 107 million bushel crop. The yield stands at an average of 45 bushels per acre. So we look at corn, also there a record crop and yield, 14 billion bushels, in spite of the fact that there's less harvested acreage this year. We look at yield, over 167 bushels per acre here in Mississippi, almost a 93 million bushel crop. That is off from last year because there's less harvested acreage. The yield in Mississippi stands at about 176 bushels per acre, up about 2 bushels. Look at cotton, 17.5 million bale crop predicted here in Mississippi, 930,000 bales predicted. That's up 29% from last year with 108,000 more harvested acres. The yield stands at 1,130 pounds per acre. That is off from last year. So look at U.S. rice, 229 million hundredweight predicted. That's up 17% from last year. Here in Mississippi, almost 12 million hundredweight. That's up 29% from last year. Yield was down off 400 pounds at 7,000 pounds per acre average predicted. U.S. peanuts, 5.1 billion pounds predicted, up 21% from last year. Here in Mississippi, 133 million pounds predicted. That's up 13% from last year. Yield stands the same in Mississippi, 3,500 pounds per acre.
A microwave is a convenient appliance for heating and cooking food quickly. In this week's episode of The Food Factor, Natasha Haynes of the Mississippi State Extension Service says you would be surprised at what some people put in a microwave.
When you're in a hurry, warming up leftovers can be a quick and convenient option. But watch out, those containers and coverings may not be safe to use in the microwave. Most takeout containers, plastic bottles, and plastic tubs designed to hold cold food, such as margarine, sour cream, or whipped toppings, may melt or warp in the microwave. When you heat food in the microwave, microscopic bits of plastic can get into your food from the container and covering. This process is called leaching. No one wants chemicals in their food. To keep food from splattering, use oven bags, wax paper, white paper towels, parchment paper, or plastic wrap. But don't reuse the same covering on different foods. Foam insulated trays and plastic wraps on fresh meats are not intended to be heated. Containers designed for one-time microwave use should only be used once, then discarded. Never use plastic storage bags, grocery bags, newspapers, or aluminum foil in the microwave. If you don't see instructions on the container for microwave use, then use something that is microwave safe. It's time to make healthy food a factor in your life.
The Energy Star rating service estimates microwaves use only 20% of the energy an oven uses to perform the same heating or cooking.
Well, do you feel like you want to be in the tropics but without leaving your own yard? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how elephant ears can give our landscapes a lush, exotic feel.
Most gardeners like plants that lend a tropical feel to the landscape. Some of the easiest tropical plants to grow that have big impact are elephant ears. There are two species commonly found in our Mississippi landscapes, Alocasia and Colocasia, and they're both called elephant ears. But today we're just going to look at Colocasia, which is also called taro. These all feature big leaves and big texture, but they're not all green. In fact, there are Colocasia with black leaves. A couple of fantastic examples are black coral and diamond head. Diamond head has jet black leaves that have a texture resembling corrugation. Black coral has large, glossy, chocolatey black leaves with finely ruffled edges. The large green leaves of blue Hawaii feature prominent bluish-purple veins. The edges are undulating, and the dark burgundy petioles are glossy. Colocasia mojito adds a refreshing color splash to the garden with its medium green leaves speckled with dark flecks of purple. One of what I think is the prettiest of the Colocasia is red stem taro. This plant has beautiful green leaves and bright red petioles. Colocasia can be readily identified because of the downward pointing foliage. Be sure to grow in the full sun and provide consistent soil moisture. In fact, they can be grown in standing water. Going to the tropics may not be possible, but we can think we live there with Colocasia in the landscape. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says that elephant ears are heavy feeders, so they like a fertilizer high in nitrogen. In our feature segment today, see how computers have taken over commodity market trading. But before we get to the markets, we want to ask you to help us once again. We want your opinions and perceptions about Farm Week and what we can do to make this show better.
If you go to our Facebook page or our web page, you will see a link on the web page. It's in the upper right corner. Follow that link and you can rate us and tell us what kind of stories and information you want to see on Farm Week. Our website address, farmweek.msucares.com. On Facebook, our fan page is Farmweek USA.
And if you'd like to call toll-free and talk to someone about Farm Week, the toll-free number is 877-274-1600, extension 92. You can do this between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, the hours are 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Time now for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, you say traders are still digesting Tuesday's crop report?
Including our own John Michael Riley, and he will join me in just a moment with some analysis for you. Also in the headlines this week, U.S. lumber exports rise sharply. Imports of foreign catfish slowly drop, while pressure may build on U.S. cattle prices. In its Tuesday, August 12th report, the USDA forecasts record yields for U.S. corn and soybeans. The August numbers are always significant because they are the first estimates of the season based on an actual producer survey. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley has been reviewing the data, and he shared some analysis with me late Thursday morning. Well, John Michael, starting on the corn side, were these numbers as bad as the corn traders had anticipated?
Well, if you look at what the market reaction, as soon as the report came out, it was. Trade was looking for a yield number of about 170. USDA put their August projection at 167.5, so lower than what was really expected, even outside the low end of the range. And I think that's why you did see such a reaction once the report hit at 11 a.m. Central. A huge jump up in the market. It slowly, settled out a little bit. But yes, the report for corn was really the really eye opener.
Now the forecasted yield, if it turns out to be true, that would be a new record?
That would be a new record, but again, you know, I think everybody is still expecting this number to move higher. If you look at conditions throughout the growing season, if you look at the size of the crop, I really think that the yield should grow if these conditions continue.
And of course, ending stocks are only going to grow. Could get even bigger than forecast.
It very well could. We know we're in a tight supply crunch on the livestock side, so that's reducing the amount of corn that's going to be used for feed. You look at driving conditions. People are just driving less, so there's less corn being used for ethanol. So it is expected that we're going to grow the carryover as the crop grows.
Now, here in Mississippi and moving over to soybeans, we could see a record number as far as soybeans in Mississippi?
That's right, projected at 48 bushels an acre, which would break the record if we see that come to fruition. Similarly with corn, 176, which is going to break last year's record. So overall, the conditions in the state look really good. In fact, there's only three crops that are expected to see a fall from last year's yields across the state, across all crops.
Now, as far as soybeans, did the price reaction come as dramatic as corn? Refresh our memory on the price reaction.
It did. It did see a little bit of coattail coming off the report and moved higher, but eventually once it was digested and we saw that the soybean carryover is going to almost or more than double from last year, it became down and has continued to move, have some pressure on it since the report came out.
And soybean exports, did that change much?
No, the only change was the production and yield number. Everything else was pretty much the same.
The 2014 U.S. cotton crop, as you heard a bit earlier, was revised upward by 1 million bales from July in the new USDA report. The new projection is 17.5 million bales with a yield of 820 pounds per acre. Analyst Don Shirley, reporting on agfacts.com, says yields in much of the Mid-South look to be over 2 bales per acre. The bigger crop is offset somewhat by a 500,000 bale increase in expected U.S. cotton exports for 2014 and 15. U.S. ending stocks are expected to rise 3 million bales from last season. Shirley says prices likely have a rough road ahead. Well, switching now to forest products, new data shows that U.S. lumber exports are on the rise. The Southern Forest Products Association says softwood lumber exports have reached their highest level in 16 years. Meanwhile, exports of U.S. pressure-treated lumber reached an all-time sales record of $79 million in 2013. Let's break from the markets to look at the trivia quiz now. Here's the quiz question. How long has it been since a boll weevil was caught in Mississippi? Is the answer 2008, 2010, 2012, or 2014? I'll tell you at the end of the markets.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the rest of the markets. Leighton Span reports there's been a dip in pond bank catfish prices, and the price pressure is also on cattle as well. In the feature segment today, it used to be shouting was the norm in commodity futures trading, but now the trading is done largely with the clicking of a computer mouse.
Hi, I'm Leighton Span, host of Farm Week. You're invited to take part in a viewer survey about Farm Week. We want to know what's good and what's bad. Go to our website, farmweek.msucares.com, look in the upper right corner, and it will direct you to our online survey. There's also a telephone survey where you can tell your thoughts to an actual person. You'll find a link to it on our website as well. You can also find these links on our Farm Week USA Facebook page.
Well, before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The Pontotoc branch of the Mississippi Agriculture and Forestry Experiment Station will hold its Sweet Potato Field Day Wednesday, August 20th. It's located on Highway 15 south of the city of Pontotoc. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Lunch will be served. Rotational crop alternatives such as sesame will be discussed. Herbicide carryover considerations when rotating to corn will also be covered. A sweet potato soil fumigation rig designed by Mississippi State University will be demonstrated. A sweet potato market update is on tap as well. An annual Muscadine Field Day, well, it's Saturday, August 23rd. Location is Mississippi State University's McNeil Research Unit on Ben Gill Road at Carriere. Carriere is located between Poplarville and Picayune. You'll get to sample fruit, learn about plant spacing, trellises, production practices, insects, and disease. Scientists from MSU and the U.S. Department of Agriculture will be on hand to answer questions. There's no registration fee. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
The latest catfish processing report shows a slight dip in pond bank prices between June and July. It also shows a 51% decrease in the amount of imported catfish entering the United States compared to a year ago. Let's look now at some of the numbers. U.S. producers received a pond bank price of $1.21 per pound for premium size live fish during the month of July. Farm sales totaled 24.5 million pounds round weight in July, a decrease of 13% from a year ago. Processor sales, meanwhile, amounted to 11.2 million pounds, a drop of 17% from July 2013. Analysts think Russia's recent embargo on U.S. food products, as well as the stock market's recent activity, are generating some of the pressure now being seen on cattle prices. Analyst Mark Gold says there is a need to protect the downside in the beef sector at this point.
I think as we get more protein available to our market, whether it's pork or poultry, that's going to put a little bit of a pressure on the cattle prices out there. We're starting to see, I think, some of the end retailers shifting some of their practices to make the beef price a little more palatable. I don't know if that's going to stick well with the American consumer. But the other thing beside this Russian deal that's affecting beef prices, in my opinion, is the stock market. You know, I think it was 2 months ago we had a break of about $13 in the cattle market. Came right back. The feeders made new highs, fats didn't. But the fact of the matter is I think it's going to be a little bit tougher with this Russian news, with the stock market down, for the cattle to be able to come back. At any rate, we're content spending some money on puts, protecting that downside.
Before our feature story, let's check out the trivia answer for this week. And the correct choice is A. 2008 was the last year a boll weevil was caught in the state, according to Director Farrell Boyd of the Boll Weevil Management Corporation.
We're used to seeing pictures of commodity traders frantically waving their hands in the trading pits at commodity exchanges. Trading changed dramatically, though, in 2007 when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Trade merged to form the CME Group, the world's largest and most diverse trading exchange. There are still guys in their colorful jackets doing business the old-fashioned way, but computerized transactions are the dominant method of trading now. Market to Market's David Miller reports.
Shouts can still be heard on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade at 141 West Jackson, but nothing in comparison to the cacophony of the past. Most of the open outcry trading has left the futures ring and now takes place in the options pit. The rest of the action at the world's oldest futures exchange has been reduced to a little more than a mouse click.
It used to be an advantage when we had all the open outcry transparency held down here where we could see the information and we had the knowledge. But now sometimes things happen and there's much more information floating around electronically where we're the fly on the windscreen per se. You know, we're the last guy to know.
March 434.21 by 2 put spread.
Scott Shellady has been a commodities trader for more than 25 years. A second-generation floor trader, Shellady owns one of the 3,600 seats or memberships on the CBOT, allowing him to trade on the floor. Memberships come with various trading rights on the exchange, but only 1,400 are considered to be full seats. The price of a seat hit an all-time high of $3.2 million in 2006, but prices have declined 92% over the past 8 years to $265,000. And Shellady says the reasons for owning a seat have changed dramatically.
Maybe for actually trading costs at the exchange level, it's an advantage. We trade at a cheaper price as far as the tax that we pay the exchange. But other than that, where it used to be something as an advantage for information, it's not anymore.
These days, Shellady does nearly all of his business electronically, which allows him to trade more than just agricultural commodities. However, he does note the advantages and disadvantages of both spending time in a desk chair and shouting in the trading pits.
Because the customers want both things. They want trade certainty. Am I filled? Am I filled? Am I done? Am I done? Have I done the actual, has my broker executed what I want him to do? And I want to know yesterday. But at the same time, they want to know what everybody else is doing. So if I do that on the open outcry market, I can tell them what everybody else is doing, or I can tell them upstairs electronically, yes, you're done, you're filled, I've done what you wanted me to do. Well, who else is doing what I want to do? I don't know, I just put it into a machine. So for speed, you lose, speed is less transparent. Slower is more transparent. So we can all see what everybody's doing a little slower and disseminate that information, or we can do it really fast upstairs and nobody knows what anybody's doing.
The first electronic trades were made in 1992 on the CME Globex trading platform. Use of the program was limited by computing power and bandwidth. Today, those hurdles have largely been overcome, making it possible to buy and sell anywhere a data connection is available. According to the CME Group, more than 90% of agricultural futures and nearly 55% of agricultural options transactions are no longer executed in the commodity pits. The trend can be seen across the entire exchange as the number of people in the grain and livestock rings diminishes. But as the number of people trading on the floor has declined, the number of opportunities to make trades has increased. In April of last year, the 165-year-old exchange combined the traditional 4 hours of open outcry with 17 hours of simultaneous electronic trading. The new hours allowed the CBOT and CME to reach a volume of more than 265 million futures and options contracts in 2013. This is down 8% from the heavily drought-influenced record trading year of 2012.
I can remember after the close of the grains, and any given day you could go downstairs to the bar or up to your office and sit around and talking about corn, soybeans, and wheat for a couple hours, just soaking up knowledge and comparing notes. You can't really do that anymore. I think that that's been the big loss, and I'm sorry to see that part of it go. On the one side, I can get quicker and better and cleaner executions for myself and my customers, but on the other side, I've lost access to a lot of knowledge that's very, very hard to replace.
Jack Scoville began as a runner on the Chicago Board of Trade in 1981 and worked his way up to being a floor trader. Scoville left the trading ring in 1990 and has been trading electronically for the Price Futures Group since 1992.
The open outcry is a lot more fun, a lot more action, a lot of excitement that you don't really get sitting here in an office, but we can trade with much more certainty. When we get filled price, we know it's a filled price.
While Scoville laments the loss of comradeship in the trading ring, he does point up the advantages of the new trading landscape.
I can remember 30 years ago when I was having to call Brazil for the company I was working at the time, and it could take me a half hour to get a phone line, and then I'd have to try and keep it open all day long. Now I can just call the guys up from wherever I am around the world. I can tell you that I've spent time riding in the back seats of pickup trucks in Central America, passing orders from Brazil to Chicago for my clients.
The CME Globex electronic trading platform also allows for some traders to make a large number of trades in millionths of a second. CME officials have yet to break out how much of the trading volume is made via the practice of high-frequency trading, and they are quick to point out that the most important thing is the integrity of their markets for each and every participant. How and where all the information is gathered and used has changed. In the past, floor traders reacted to the peaks and valleys of various trading cycles. They would often trade in ways that are sensitive to harvest lows, weather trends, and key government reports. But with all the information readily available on the internet, tech-savvy traders can shift the market in unexpected directions.
So there may be a trader in India that doesn't know about those cycles, and so they'll trade against them. If you have enough people doing a one-lot trade, that can be a big trade. And if just so happens they all do it at the same time, you might see there's rain on the horizon for corn. Corn prices should be going down, but enough people have bought a one-lot from somewhere else in the world that the market's rallying. So we have to be careful about what's actually happening and slowly but surely somehow take the noise out.
And as more and more commodities on the CME Group are traded electronically, Shellady believes it's important to balance knowledge and experience against the pressure of changing times.
You could shoot a cannon through here and not hit anybody. So yeah, it's nowhere near what it used to be. And ultimately, that's not the exchange to decide or the traders to decide. The customer will decide when and if he or she wants to do the business 100% electronically. But right now, there's enough customers that do call people, and we execute in the pit. So as long as that's the same, it'll still stay open.
For Market to Market, I'm David Miller.
And you can watch this story on electronic commodity trading on our Farmweek website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also watch Farmweek stories on our Farmweek USA Facebook page and YouTube. We'll also have a link to the Market to Market where you can see the original story as well as read the script. We're also available at twitter.com/Farmweek. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we'll have a Farm Week flashback.
We'll be visiting a Mississippi shop teacher who turns cotton picker parts into works of art. Lee Washington didn't consider himself a sculptor, but now he's a member of the Craftsman's Guild of Mississippi.
In the Food Factor, marinades. If you've never tried them, they're easier than you think.
And in Southern Gardening, dwarf cannas. These cannas are half the size of normal ones.
Well, for the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.